It's your girl Brittany, and I'm back with another video. Okay, so if I'm looking everywhere, it's because I'm outside, I'm in my car, and I'm doing a car video because this has to be maybe the quietest place around the house. So, back to the point. Okay, so the day before, I knew that I wanted to have the baby. I'm not sure if I said the gender yet, but I knew I wanted to have the baby, so I'm just say 7 because everybody knows that's the baby's nickname. So I knew I wanted to have 7, and because I was over it, I was over the whole pregnancy, everything since day one. So um, even though I have kids, I still was looking up remedies on how to have a baby because every baby is different. Like this baby literally passed my I had all my other kids at 38 weeks. No, this baby came at 39 weeks. I was 39 weeks when I had 7. So, um the day before I knew that I wanted to have the baby. So, I was looking up remedies and I'm like, what can I do to have this baby?" So, what ended up happening was I found some YouTuber, I can't recall the name. Was it Latoya? I don't know if it was for Latoya, you know Latoya. Ali, her family, Samia, Ali, they from Canada, but they moved to somewhere, I don't know, in the U.S. But she was eating pineapples. So I'm like, let me go get some pineapples. And then somebody said eat like mangoes. But I wasn't going to eat any mangoes because I knew I wouldn't have been able to find mangoes without the whole mango. So I went to go buy pineapples. So I was eating the pineapples or whatever the day before. Now, the day before, it was the 7th. So I really wanted to have the baby on the 7th because then the baby name would have been 7. But that didn't happen like that. And I believe Easy E birthday was the 7th as well. All right, Easy E fans out there, love you. But back to the point. So I wanted to have the baby that day. Yeah, it was the 7th. Yeah. So I was doing all of this. I was eating pineapples. I was walking. I was doing all of this stuff. Nothing was happening. So all of a sudden, I'm like, I told my husband, I said, let's go to Walmart. So we went to Walmart, and I basically was like contracting, but it wasn't like a rapid contraction. It was like off and on. So I'm like, here we go. And you know, after 38 weeks, you're not having Braxton Hicks contractions, I believe, anymore. You're having real contractions. Like these are real contractions that can start. It's no more false labor because your baby is basically ready to be born. So it's not false labor anymore. Those are real labor contractions or whatever. So I I was having a lot of pain in my stomach and I'm like, and I'm like, I really don't want to go, and then they send me home. So we ended up going to Walmart, and then my husband was walking around or whatever, and then my stomach was still hurting, and I'm like, oh, my stomach is hurting. So what ended up happening was we ended up leaving. And when we left, my husband was like, well, do you want to go to the hospital? Because I had my bags already packed. I knew that I wanted to have the baby that day. And I'm like, no. I don't want to go to the hospital because I don't want to get turned back. But not knowing that I went and got turned back because those was not fake contractions. Was the real contractions. So that might have been about 7 or 8 o'clock. And I do have a set of twins. So our twins was with us. And we knew that we would have had to drop our twins off somewhere. So if I made that decision to go. So the time was ticking. It was 8 o'clock. People would sleep. So I had to make a decision because if I didn't make that decision soon, then, you know, my husband wouldn't be able to be at the hospital unless he like banged on people's doors and stuff like that. But so it was about 10 o'clock p.m. And I was still having, because I had made the decision that I wasn't going to go. I'm like, I'm not going to go to the hospital. I'm going to wait. So it was about 10 o'clock, and my stomach just kept hurting. But I'm like, no. And mind you, I ate the pineapples. I was eating the pineapples. And it just kept hurting. So I'm like, ugh, I'm just over this. So I told my husband that I was ready to go to the hospital. He didn't believe me because I was just laying in bed. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go to the hospital. And he's like, okay. Then he fell back to sleep. So I had put on my stuff, and I got my baby bag, and hospital bag and baby bag. And I got his keys, and then I went and I sat in the van. And he was like, and I had woke him up, and I'm like, I want to go to the hospital. So he was like, he had to hurry up and get the twins ready, and then, cause he didn't believe me until I left out the house. Now, mind you, I said that was 10 before clock is winding, and it was 12 by the time we got everything situated where I was able to go to the hospital. So dropped the twins off with my mom, and then we proceeded to go to the hospital. Made it to the hospital at 1 o'clock. Okay, so this now is the next day, so it's the 8th, and we made it to the hospital at 1 o'clock a.m. Okay, so what happened was I told them that I was in labor, and they admitted me to the hospital, and they wanted to check me, which I'm like, this is the part I hate, because I hate when they check me, because it's basically like, everybody who have kids know, it's either your cervix is low and they can feel it, or no, and they have to like reach all the way into you to try to find your cervix, or see if you dilate it or whatever. And it's an uncomfortable feeling. So it's like, I hate that part. So the lady, she had the blood pressure thing on my arm, and she was checking my cervix at the same time. So, and at the same time, triple things had going on. Blood pressure, checking my cervix, and then I had a contraction at the same time. So when she did that, and I can't remember, I think she said I was 3 centimeters dilated, but then my blood pressure was sky high. Like, it was whatever it don't supposed to be. So they ended up admitting me to the hospital, like really admitting me to the hospital. This was a pre-admit to see if they was going to admit me, but then they ended up admitting me because they like, you is in labor. So once I got inside of the room or whatever, they wanted to check me again. Then they kept saying like, oh, we just want to make sure that you don't have preeclampsia and stuff like that. So they did another blood pressure on me, and they told me afterwards that blood pressure was high, to elevated as well. It wasn't as high, but it was like elevated. So they was like, the only way to prevent you from getting preeclampsia, which is, anybody that know it, is when your blood pressure is basically sky high and you're pregnant. That's what, and it's dangerous. It's really dangerous, but it's not dangerous if they control it. They give you the medicine and stuff. But if you're not on medicine and pills and stuff, and you just have this high rapid blood pressure while you're pregnant, then it's preeclampsia, and it's not safe. So they was telling me that the only way to prevent me from having preeclampsia was to deliver the baby. So they gave me this medicine. And I can't remember it. But a lot of y'all pregnant moms and moms, y'all probably already know what the name of the medicine was. I forgot the name of it. But basically what it does is it makes your labor go faster. So I could have sworn they probably was just, every time a nurse go up in there, they probably was just putting more and more in me, because it seemed like it was going fast. So they checked me again, and I think I was about 5 centimeters, or I could have been 7. I was either 5 or 7. And by this time, it was probably about 2 or 3 o'clock a.m. 3 a.m. I keep saying o'clock, but 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. And coming and checking me, and I remember I was 5, but they were saying that I wasn't dilating. So I was 5 centimeters, but something wasn't happening. I think I wasn't dilating or something. So they gave me some other kind of medicine, and I was gonna sleep because it was morning time, and they were like, go to sleep. So I think I kind of fell asleep a little bit, but then I really couldn't, because y'all know how the nurses is. They run in and out of the room for no reason. Hi, let me check your blood pressure. Hi, let me check your temperature. Hi, let me just check your face to make sure you still have your eyes, your nose, and your ears. And it's like, can I sleep? So I had went to sleep. That's what I was trying to say. I had went to sleep, and then surprisingly, I woke up. It was like 6, 7, 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, how did I sleep for that long? And then I think that's when they said that my other blood pressure was high when I was asleep. Like, somebody came in and took my blood pressure, and it was high. I'm like, I don't remember anybody coming in taking my blood pressure, even though they do leave the thing on your arm. But if I'm laying on it, or if I'm just in a position where it's not reading right, then it is going to be high. But back to the story. So 6 something, and time is going 7, 8, and I'm just meeting all these different nurses and doctors and stuff, because my doctor wasn't here. He told me, he was like, I'm not going to be there on the weekends, so if you come on the weekends, I'm not going to be there. So I'm sorry, I don't work weekends, and but I have a person on standby for you that she will deliver the baby once, if you go into labor. She already know, like, if you end up going into labor. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Even though I was sad, because I'm like, what was the whole point of having him the whole time as my doctor if he wasn't even going to deliver the baby? But he was a great doctor. But so time was passing by, and I remember my contractions just started getting rapid, and it started going stronger and stronger. So I'm like, what is the medicine before the epidural? Because, like I said, I had other kids, and I know it was a medicine before the before they do the epidural. It's other meds that you can take. So I'm like, what's the other medicine that you can take before the epidural? They was like, oh, so-and-so. I forgot the name. And they was like, but we don't recommend that one because that one wears off. And it won't last until you give birth. Basically, it's just like a quick fix at that moment. And then maybe for like an hour or 2 hours, I don't know. And then it wears off. So we don't recommend that unless the baby is coming out and you is having pains and you want that. And I'm like, no, I think I want that. So they waited maybe a couple hours. So that was like 8, 9, 10. So like 10, they gave it to me. So the whole time, nurses is coming in, they're introducing their stuff. Now, this medicine makes you feel like you're high. Never been high before, but I did watch that 70s show, and I remember they used to be high, and I saw like Snoop Dogg and them be high, and you know, those type of people. So it makes you feel like you're high. So that I was like in this daze, and that I was in a field, like a green field, and I was just running with Teletubbies. So I kept telling the nurses, I'm like, we're running with the Teletubbies. And they kept telling me, go to sleep. And I'm like, no, I'm having pains, but I'm running in the field with you with these tubby toes. And they're like, no, you need to go to sleep. And I'm like, but why? And then every time a new nurse comes in, I'm like, who is you? And then they be like, oh, I'm so-and-so. And I'm like, why is there so many of y'all in here? And not realizing they were setting up everything because I had dilated. I mean, I didn't dilate it. I was about 9 centimeters. But I wasn't going to 10 centimeters. Or was I 10 centimeters, but I wasn't fully dilated. So they was setting up everything because I was about to have the baby. And they were just trying to calm me down, keep me calm, or whatever. And that probably, like I said, that was like 10. So we at like 11, 12 now. So I'm gonna say we like 11:30, 12, and this is noon, 11:30 a.m. to 12 noon. So the lady was like, how are you feeling or whatever? Can I check you? And I was like, no, you can't check me anymore. And then I realized she checked me. And then, because I kept saying no to everything. I was like that delusional, well, that outer space, that I was just saying no to everything. I'm like, no. It was like, do you want some water? No. And I think the lady even said, is your name Brittany? And I looked at her and I'm like, yes. But they thought I was like out of it, but I really wasn't out of it. Well, I was out of it, but I really wasn't. I was kind of like, my mind, the me inside was trying to be strong and remember every face and remember and hear what they're saying and try to know what's going on. But the body of me was like, oh, let's keep running. But so I remember it was 3 people that came in. One was a doctor and one was a student, and she was trying to be, well, she's going to be a doctor, and it was the doctor that was going to deliver the baby. And I remember looking at her, and her name was it Jordan? I can't remember her name, but she looked like she was mixed, but she was like the only black person besides like Mexicans, Hmongs, and nothing's wrong with that. But you know, when you recognize another black person or a mixed person, it's kind of like, whoa, look, rather than having a room full of other people, which isn't a bad thing because they all was nice and they all was sweet, except for I think one of them, but she was older, and I always be nice to all of them. I don't like discriminate against color, weight, walking out the room, coming in the room eating, even though none of them ever did that. But I'm just saying, like, I know everybody is human and everybody has a job to do. And if they get their job done, why would I complain about something other than something else that they're doing that is human? I don't have a problem with what you're doing, just as long as you properly getting your job done in the professional way. So back to the point. So I had told her, I was like, I remember, I was like, your name is Jordan, and she was like, yeah, my name is Jordan. I didn't know you was gonna remember because, like I told you, they came in like hours earlier when I was first got the medicine and introduced themselves, and and I'm like, yeah, I remember you because she, like I said, was the only she was mixed, so I'm like, that's her name. But I told everybody else their names too, and they was like, oh, you remember that too? And I'm like, yeah. But see, that was the strong me coming out, like the real me coming out, like, yeah, I know who y'all is. You know, y'all try to do something. You know, that survey ain't gonna be too cute on when the hospital send it. You know, Jordan girl, she's trying to be a doctor, so she is, I don't know what they call them, people that try to be doctors. I don't know. She basically delivered the baby, and the other doctor was showing her, telling her what to do and helping her, because once the baby came out, they both grabbed the baby to make sure the baby didn't fall, like off the bed or whatever. I might be skipping parts, but if I am, I'm gonna go back and do a part two. She told her, she was like, if she's not fully dilated and you can feel her contract, pull her cervix, the water bag. No, they popped my water bag already. Sorry, I see. I'm saying they popped the water bag. Water bag didn't break. They popped it, and every time I had a contraction, I just kept pushing out the water. Now this is like 12:30, and I was having. It was just too bad, and I'm like, okay, I want the epidural. I want the epidural. So they literally called the anesthesiologist, I believe that's who gave me the episode. They called her to come give me the epidural at the last minute. And she came. She came like in 5 seconds. And she gave me the epidural, and then it was like all the pain was dwelling down. And there was like, your body is basically trying to have this baby and take this and stop you from having this pain at the same time. So I couldn't really feel nothing, like on my bottom area, like booty type area, and I couldn't feel the contractions, but I did feel like my stomach hurting, and it was like every time you feel your stomach hurt, basically, that's a contraction. And I remember that they told me not to push because my cervix wasn't dilated all the way, and she told the lady, she was like, um, next time you see a contraction, because they can see it on the thing, pull her cervix, move it out the way, like, you make her fully dilated, like. And the girl was like, you can do that? And she was like, yeah, because if she not doing it, I mean, if her body not doing it and you can feel it, you can just move that little piece out and it should be fully dilated. So she ended up doing that, and I remember my husband. I remember it. I kept saying, 7 come at 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and 1 o'clock had passed and 7 wasn't born yet. And then I'm like, well, 1:15. I was just saying like all the next, numbers, and this little baby crib is neat. You lock it. You can lock it if you want to, but this drops down so you can get your baby out. And it's really cool. It has 2 compartments. And then at the bottom, it's like that. And then you can like move it on, but I'm not gonna do that. I remember there was like, yeah, you can push now. And when I was able to push, they was like, my husband was like, it was 7. I mean, it was 1:14, and they told you to push. You pushed twice, and 7 was out. It was just like boom, boom. I just remember I was laying there, and I was like, I feel the head coming out. Then it was like, yep, the head is out. Then I was like, oh no, here's the shoulders. I hate the shoulders. Then I was like, yeah, the shoulders is out. Then I was like, oh, now everything else is easy. And then the baby just basically came out, which was like I think he said 2 minutes or whatever. And the baby was 6 pounds, 7 ounces, and 21 inches long, and was born at 1:15 p.m. Yeah. So that's my labor delivery story. And I remember that, after I had 7, they gave the baby to me. And they were like getting the placenta and stuff like that out. And I remember they were down there for a long time, and I kept asking them, like, why y'all down there for a long time? But yeah, whatever. And yeah, it was another part. The epidural seemed like it wasn't working. So I had this little push thing button, and they were telling me to push the button if I feel like I need more of the epidural medicine, which I never had to do that before. And I kept telling the nurse, I'm like, push it. She was like, no, we can't push it. You have to push it. And I was like, no, you push it. And then she was like, no, we can't do it. You do it. And I'm like, no, you do it. And then she was like, no, here it is. Push the button. So then I ended up pushing the button. I'm like, dang, what was that stuff? I can't remember the stuff that they gave me, but that stuff, that'd be like, that'd be having you in the days. But it was basically a quick labor delivery. Even though it was 12 hours, the pain didn't really start until like 10 out, like at 10, so I probably was in labor, really active labor for 2 hours, but in labor there to them for 12 hours. But this was. This is me after the baby. And then this is me in the bathroom. Clothes. Yeah. Kind of sore right now, so I need to get some rest. It's probably like 1 in the morning. But yeah, just have to feed the baby because it's cluster feeding. So I'll talk to y'all later. The roughest pregnancy and the roughest labor to me, even though it wasn't that bad of a labor, because I hear terror stories of labor delivery stories, but it really wasn't that bad. But it was the roughest for me because of all the how long it took. And then I was 39 weeks. Usually I'll be 38 weeks. So yeah, that was my labor delivery story. I'm gonna have some clips of the baby inside of here. I'm gonna have some clips inside of here for y'all. And yeah, I know it's a long one, but watch it, thumbs it up, and like it.